Yeah. Sports psychology. I love it. Love it. Let's transition. Because I think sports psychology kind of plays into this as well. But Asante Samuel, great cornerback, right? Great cornerback. He got a podcast. Everybody got a podcast, But he had this to say, all right? Because Chad Johnson, a friend of his, and Chris Carter. Chris Carter had said something, and I thought it was very interesting. So let's take a listen to what Asante Samuel had to say about Chris Carter and why he was so upset at Chris Carter.
Chris Carter trashes Chad Johnson's career after hearing Chad Johnson and Travis Hunter have a fun back and forth, going at it and talking. You know how Chad do, talking about he'll route Travis Hunter up, and Hunter talking about what do you do to him. They was going back and forth. So Chris Carter decides to chime in after hearing these two go back and forth. Let's check it out.
Go back to points in Chad's career where, and definitely the point he was in New England, you had to go out there and tell him what to do because he couldn't get open to save his life. So I remember times he had an NFL uniform open that he couldn't get open against average guys.
Guys that were worse than that weren't near as good as Hunter.
There's nothing that pissed me off more than old guys who used to be able to do something. And when they recall what they did, they swear up and down that it was better than how they did it.
He's really starting to feel himself, when he gets in front of these mics. Chris Carter must think he's a top 5 all-time wide receiver. That's who he believes he is. If he's talking like this, and especially coming at Chad Ochocinco. Yes, I think Chris Carter, he was great during his time. He was a hell of a route runner. He ran some hell of a routes, and he had some of the best hands in football. That's what he was known for, route running and having really good hands, right? But he is really beside himself coming for Chad Johnson. And he was nothing more than a possession receiver. That's all Chris Carter was, a possession receiver. A receiver that catches the ball and is immediately tackled. That's what a possession receiver is. They have no yak. Chris Carter is overrated. As a cornerback, understand what I'm saying. As a cornerback, what do I have to worry about covering a guy like Chris Carter? I'm not worried about him running past me. What Chris Carter did in his career wasn't anything special. Maybe above average, but it wasn't anything special. His highest yards per reception in his career was 13 yards. And then Randy Moss came and tied Chris Carter's career highs in receiving yards. Randy Moss came to that team and outshined Chris Carter. How does Chris Carter feel he has the right to come for Chad Johnson?
Damn, Asante didn't hold back. He didn't hold back. I only got one problem. with what Asante Samuel said. He tried to make it seem like Chris Carter wasn't nothing. He tried to make it seem like Chris Carter wasn't nothing. Especially, he tried to make it seem like Chris Carter wasn't an all-time great. He may try to dwindle him down as just a possession receiver. Okay, that's fine. He's entitled to his own opinions. I just happen to strongly disagree with Asante Samuel. All right. I think Chris Carter was a hell of a wide receiver. All right. I think Chris Carter, shit. I mean, if we're really being honest, the same things that he's talking about right here, he should have pretty much almost those same things to really say about Jerry Rice. You wouldn't really worry about Jerry Rice being a burner. But Jerry Rice is considered the GOAT, right? He's considered the GOAT, if not one of the GOATs at wide receiver. Is he not? If you ask me, Chris Carter and Jerry Rice's game are pretty similar. So what I'm saying is if Asante Samuel feels that way about Chris Carter, then he must feel the same way about Jerry Rice. Pretty similar careers. Only thing is Jerry Rice won a lot. Got a lot of Super Bowls. Had a badass quarterback in Joe Montana. Don't get me wrong. Cris Carter played with some hellified quarterbacks, played with some real ones. You know, Randall Cunningham. That's a real one. All right. That's a real one. Played with Warren Moon. That's a real one. All right. Dante Culpepper had a little moment. Cool. But what I'm saying is that for Asante Samuel to sit here and try to make it seem like Cris Carter want nothing is crazy. And I'm gonna get to that in a second. And I just think there's just a little bit miscommunication with this whole situation, as in Cris Carter should have understand that Chad Johnson is just being silly. That's what he's always done. He's always in that way, like, hey, man, Sanders all the time. Like, literally does that with primetime Deion Sanders all the time. So my main point is I think that Cris Carter should have read the room and understand that Chad Johnson he's a funny guy. He likes to have fun. He likes to be silly. All right. And I think he's kind of taking this a little bit overboard and trying to come at Chad. And I think that was kind of, weird for him to, take a moment that him and Travis Hunter were having and him to take it to that point. And, but if you're talking about wide receivers, talking about other wide receivers, I'm not saying that he's disqualified, but I'm looking at his resume and I'm like, yeah, Cris kind of nice. So that's why I disagree at where Asante Samuel isn't like, yo, bro, are you sure he wasn't that special? Are you sure he wasn't an all-time great? Like you say, because you try to make it seem like he wasn't nothing. And I just think that's crazy. I just think that's crazy to me. For instance, let's look at it. All right. So Asante Samuel doesn't think that Cris great or wasn't not like that, in his words. All right. So here we are. All right. And I know you can't see that. I know y'all can't see that. I'm gonna back it up and we gonna conversate about it. All right. So when you look at right here, all right, in the NFL receptions career leaders, all right, let's just call a spade a spade. All right. I see Cris Carter's face up here. I don't see Chad Johnson's. And again, this is not a slight at Chad. This is me defending how great Cris Carter is and how Asante Samuel is trying to make it seem like Cris Carter wasn't like that. All right. So receptions. All right. We can look at receptions. All right. Let's start right there. Receptions. All right. My man, Cris Carter. Receptions. Obviously, Jerry Rice is the GOAT. He has 1,549. All right. 1,549 receptions. It's crazy. All right. Your man, Cris Carter, is 6 overall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's Larry Fitzgerald, Tony Gonzalez, Jason Witten, Marvin Harrison. So there's only literally 3 wide receivers that has caught more footballs than Cris Carter. You know who wasn't named? That's right. It wasn't Chad Johnson. All right. And not to shade Chad Johnson, but he only has 766 receptions. All right. Only 766. So he got some receptions, but he's nowhere near Cris. All right. Let's take it a step further. All right. When we talk about receiving yards, all right, I get it. Your man, Asante Samuel, was like, hey, he ain't no yak guy. Okay. Chad Johnson, very impressive career, 11,059 yards. 11,059 yards. All right. He may not be top 12, but Cris Carter is sitting 13th overall with 13,899 yards. All right. Still pretty elite company. All right. Let's get to touchdowns. That's career yardage. All right. So again, Chad Johnson, 11,059 to 13,899, almost 14,000. All right. We talk about touchdowns. We talk about the touchdowns. All right. My man, Chad Johnson has 67 touchdowns. Cris Carter has 130. All right. So in the three most important categories for a wide receiver in touchdowns, Cris Carter's top 4. He's top 15, top 4 in touchdowns, top 15 in receiving yards, top 6 in receptions. Now, I want to also put into context Cris Carter's career, 1987 to 2002. All right. Cris Carter played in a lot of that real bump and run. All right. If we're going to have this conversation, Asante Samuel saying, "Oh, Cris Carter wasn't this, he wasn't that. He was only having 13 yards per reception." All right. Well, let's put in the context of the type of defense that he was playing between 1987 and 2002. He was playing that real football. When DBs used to beat you up. Used to beat you up down the whole sideline and not a flag in sight. Cris Carter did a lot of this damage in against the defenses where they were able to literally get away with everything. My point is put Cris Carter in this football right now. Say he was born 25 years back, all right? And he's playing in this football where the rules are so lopsided, where the emphasis is to get points. The emphasis is to throw the ball in there, get as much scoring, as much yards, and literally the NFL wants every offense to look like the Cincinnati Bengals. Just air that bitch out. Just air it out. You got a T. Higgins, got a Jamar Chase down there somewhere. Air it out. All right? And so you look at the rules, how they're set up. They're meant for explosive plays. They're meant for high scoring. They're meant for get a lot of yardage, move the football. That's the reason why you saw those rule changes, especially when it comes to illegal contact, pass interference, anything against the defense. It is so hard to play defensive back now than it was 15, 20 years ago. It's so incredible hard. So when you get a lockdown corner, like a Patrick Surtain too, you make sure you keep that man in your uniform and get all the prime years you can. Because it's rare to get a shutdown corner in a type of pretty much offense emphasized sports league. They want the offense to explode. They want all that scoring. They don't want no 7-0s, 7-3, 3-0 scores on no scoreboard, on no TV, and damn sure not on no prime time. That Super Bowl that they had with the Rams and the Patriots a few years ago. Oh, deep down inside, they was like, man, this shit is whack. This shit is boring. But my main point is that for Asante Samuel to try to act like Cris Carter ain't got no say-so on what makes a great wide receiver or not, I kind of disagree with him. Chris Carter got the right to speak his truth on what makes a good or not wide receiver. Chris Carter had some of the best route runners in the history of the game. Toe tap, drag, swag, he had that. Couldn't nobody touch the sideline, tiptoe that sideline better than Chris Carter. Couldn't nobody have better hands than Chris Carter in his time. The man was a bad mamma jamma. I just think it's real disingenuous, as I say that word wrong. I made up a word called Marism. It's disingenuous for Asante Samuel to try to act like Chris Carter wasn't like that just because he was a possession receiver. For any guy to put up those numbers that Chris Carter has in a type of very physical, rough defense that they were allowed to play at that point in time. And guess what? There's some guys that aren't catching him that are still playing right now, and they might not. There might be some that will, but right now, there's cats that are playing in this NFL that might not even catch Chris Carter's numbers. I just think that's real disingenuous to really think that Chris Carter wasn't like that. Because he was. Chris Carter was like that. Love his story. Battled some demons, got kicked out of Philly, resurrected his career in Minnesota, turned into a Hall of Famer. I mean, look, I get it. Obviously, there was just a snippet of what Chris Carter had to say that Asante decided to talk about. We all do it on podcasts. And when there's a point or a narrative that we want to drive home, you do nitpick certain clips or, and then you put in you don't take everything in the context. I'm just being honest. For those who wanted some fourth wall being broken right there. That's just the truth. ESPN, FS1, they all do it. We all do it as content creators, from the small markets like me all the way up to the big guys, because we're trying to prove a point. All right? We're trying to drive something home. And my point is right here is that Chris Carter did a lot of work, did a lot of damage in the NFL that wasn't meant for you to do it. It was meant to be a rough and rugged NFL, physical, beat you up. It wasn't meant to be a high-scoring type of affair. That didn't happen until the last few years when you see all these rules getting implemented about, defense and how the defensive backs are allowed to play these wide receivers. Just point blank. So I just think, wow, Asante, I get it. I'm with you if you're talking about Chris Carter. Come on, man. Like, Chad Johnson don't mean no harm. He's just being silly. And you took his moment and tried to make it something that wasn't one. Because I think that's what that is. I think Chris Carter really did take a moment that's really nothing and tried to turn it into something, said his P's and Q's. Obviously, I think he was asked the question, and ran with it, said what he had to say. But I'm not going to sit here and agree with Asante trying to act like that Chris Carter can't have no say-so on what it takes to be a great wide receiver in the NFL. The guy got a golden jacket. Got a golden jacket. All right? I'm not going to sniff at that guy's credentials, especially the moment he damn sure put that golden jacket on. All right? And I respect Asante Samuel in his game, but hey, man, I just thought that was crazy. I thought overrated. Chris Carter was overrated. Yeah, that's kind of wild, bro. That's kind of wild to me. Very wild.
Yeah. Silent Hill TD, yes, what's up? Yeah, come on. LW Sports Network, late night edition. Let's go. Come on.
We about to raise the bar.